And the
podcast
begins with a song of rebellion.
How can this
podcast
be my life?
CD Burners.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to CD Burners. We have a very special episode for you today because we get to talk about one of Morgan's favorite bands of all time, Saves the Day.
I've been waiting to do this. I've been waiting to do this one. I didn't have to go back and, I did go back and listen to it, but I listened to it weekly, so I didn't have to.
Just regular listening rotation.
It's just a regular, they are in general, just regular listening rotation for me.
Nice.
I have a lot to say, and I'm going to really do my best to keep this conversational instead of me just screaming for 45 minutes.
Okay.
So
well,
I feel like give me some facts and I will respond accordingly.
And then we have another episode to do. So
we do 2 in a day.
We're
I want to play that song.
Okay, maybe you guys probably just heard that. Wait, here's the song actually.
So welcome to the podcast. We record 2 in a day. Fuck you. Fuck you. CD Burners.
This is an AI song that Morgan made about the podcast.
It's been in my head since I made it.
Yeah, it's a good song. That and the Biz and Kevin song. Guys, we just got back from a wedding and Morgan DJ'd the after party and he used AI to make a song about the bride and groom. And that has been stuck in my head for like a week.
We're not going to play that because it doesn't matter to you guys. But I played it during our DJ or my DJ set afterwards and it went the fuck off. So anyway, We're here to talk about like literally one of the best albums of all time.
It Saves the Day, Stay What You Are. It was released July 10th, 2001. This is the third album.
I know.
From Saves the Day.
Dog, I know.
And it came out on Vagrant Records, and nobody was expecting it to do as well as it did. It crashed the Billboard charts, made it about halfway up, number 100 on the Billboard 200, and sold about 15,000 copies in the first week.
Having a hard time not interrupting everything that you're saying. But I'm
say
doing
what you
want to
say.
It's 2001, right?
Yep.
I'm a junior in high school.
Okay.
I'm a junior in high school. So
Great year.
It was the absolute, that's one of the reasons why it was so good for me. So literally one of the best years of my life. Junior in high school was the best year. I don't care. I'm a fucking junior in high school apologist. People are like, I hated high school. I fucking loved it. I was cool. I don't give a shit. It was awesome. We did drugs and went to parties and listened to Saves the Day. This album, like I loved Saves the Day already. Like Through Being Cool and Can't Slow Down. Like it's really hard for me to be like, this is my favorite one. But I think they're all so goddamn good. But this one in particular, I'll stay on this one because I will go into all the other ones.
Yeah.
This one does not sound like their previous 2 albums.
What is different about it?
The first 2 sounded, the first one especially, they were like rooted in like the hardcore Jersey scene. And that's kind of where their first couple albums came from, even though Through Being Cool started to become more pop. Can't Slow Down it still is the thing. There Saves the Day through and through.
They say that it's a Lifetime kind of knockoff. Like they loved Lifetime for that first album so much. And everybody was like, wow, they're ripping off Lifetime, but they're doing it so well that you can't ignore it.
Nobody's mad at it is the thing. And I don't give a shit. I'm a fucking Can't Slow Down apologist. Like don't care. I don't give a shit. It's better.
You don't need to apologize to anybody.
I don't give a fuck. The first song sounds like if you listen to the first song off like that.
Yeah, but it's fine. And it established them in that New Jersey scene. And they started playing hardcore shows. And yeah, like you said, Through Being Cool was poppy, and this is by far their poppiest. But I noticed that the lyrics on this one are quite a bit darker than Through Being Cool.
Well, the thing about Chris Conley is that he is this is a big statement. And I think that it speaks volumes for Saves the Day and their influence on what they've done in music in general, like their influence on everything is, and especially at the time, right? We had all these bands that were outwardly like fuck you, you suck, girl. Like you are the, like I hope you like, fucking like Taking Back Sunday and shit was like that fucking scumbag being like, I hope you are this and this and this. Chris was that to himself. He wrote these incredibly graphic and violent lyrics, but about him, not about anybody else. And he painted a more visual picture of what his songs, it was, what's that fucking thing that like autistic people have where they can like see songs? Synesthesia. Like he does a really good job of whatever that is. Like you can see what he's talking about in your head, and he describes it in such a I think some of it is incredibly graphic. And I don't know, I think this album, he either started smoking more weed or grew up a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what I found out.
Yeah, because the thing is, I don't know too much about it. All I know is my experiences with it.
I found this article. It was like an interview that he did with CMJ. If you don't know what that is, it's the College Music Journal. This was a very popular thing back in the 2000s. He said that through being cool, actually watched a few interviews, but in Through Being Cool, he was at NYU and he was taking a lot of creative writing classes, and he was taking those assignments and then taking bits and pieces of those assignments and turning them into lyrics. The band got in a car accident.
Look, again, I don't know what it is about like a van accident. I feel like you have to get in a van accident to be an awesome band. Mm-hmm. Like it just seems to be
it's
the
a
common
rite of passage, maybe.
Seems like the common thread.
But he did say after the van accident, he kind of took a look at the music he was putting out, and he was like, I don't know, like I'm kind of just like writing poetry. A lot of this is like from assignments. I'm just like writing pretty words. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not like expressing myself.
And he said that about Cancel It Out and Through Being Cool.
He said that about both of those.
He
said that about both of those things. I mean, he is in Through Being Cool, like he's saying, like, I miss my mom. Like he's still like very vulnerable, but he did at one point in one of the interviews that I saw say like a lot of the stuff on Through Being Cool is just like kind of made up. It's from writing assignments. The songs that were about relationships, that was the real stuff. And I think when they went to make Stay What You Are, he kind of made a conscious decision to be like, all right, this is a personal piece about like some darker stuff. I'm really going to try and open up what's inside on this one rather than just like try to write something pretty.
Well, I mean, it is pretty. The thing is like, I do think that he's like my favorite lyricist. He's like literally like this, he was the guy that got me, like, if that band didn't exist, I don't know if we would be sitting here. It's one of those bands for me. Like, I mean, dude, I used to play like songs off like Cancel It Down on like acoustic guitar, and then tell all my friends that like didn't know.
You're like, yeah, I wrote this.
Yeah, I wrote it. And they're like, so good. And I was like, I know, it's so good. I have a fucking friend, Justin Harris, like fucking tricked him 2 years. He thought I was like writing all these Saves the Day songs. Yeah, he's a fucking idiot.
Then did he find out?
Yeah, found out. And I mean, this was the album that like Annie Walters broke up with me. It was like Screaming Car. Go to weekend, parties every single weekend in the summer. That was this album for me. It's gonna go down as shaping me who I, and like why I like this stuff and how I view all other music and all other songwriting, because this was like that moment. I was like right there.
I don't think you're alone in that. I mean, they were so influential in the scene that they came up in. East Coast, I feel like they were so huge. Like every band that came out of that sort of Jersey scene looked up to Saves the Day, wanted to be Saves the Day. Gabe Saporta wanted to play guitar in Saves the Day.
Okay, like, all right.
At one point, he tried out for the band.
Did they not let him in?
No, he said he didn't. He wasn't good enough.
Too tall?
He said, I wasn't dexterous enough to play the guitar parts.
All roads lead back to Gabe Saporta.
It's so wild.
TJ has this new bit that I don't know how we'll do it. I guess this is how we'll do it, but all roads lead back to Gabe.
Yeah, you know that like with movies, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. With emo music and the scene, it's 6 degrees of Gabe Saporta.
I can tell you that I think that, Gabe loves him so much that he like did not come to emo night for a long time. Like he just like, yeah, I'll come. Gabe. And then one day I was like, yo, Chris is coming. Mm-hmm. Instantly.
Let's tell that story. Do you remember that night?
Yeah. I remember bits and pieces. I remember my sister was there because it was like the most, like that's the thing. It was like so important to my sister and I. Like this was very important. She came in and,
This was at the Echoplex, probably like 2016.
Yeah.
Chris Connelly from Saves the Day came to do a DJ set. And it was supposed to just be a DJ set. And somehow, I don't know, he probably peer pressuring him and him just being nice. He was like, okay, I'll play some acoustic songs. And so we tracked down an acoustic guitar from one of the bands playing upstairs. And we were like, Chris Connelly's going to play acoustic. Can he please borrow your guitar? And then it was like a whole thing to like find a strap for it. We like jerry rigged some sort of strap. And then Chris gets out there and just decides he's going to play like 2 or 3 songs. And I remember Gabe being so drunk and somehow he found a tambourine. And he was playing tambourine and like singing harmony with Chris.
It was the fucking best. And then like he was like, I don't want to like be in the spotlight. I want to be like back. I want to be back. And he was like fucking right next to him, like screaming
with a
like,
tambourine doing harmonies.
Me and fucking Gabe were like, yes, dude. It's like it is. The thing is, like he is everybody's like favorite songwriter. He's like writes songs. Like I don't know what missed for like general popular, like gen pop. Like I don't know like what's missing. Maybe the lyrics are too violent or I don't know, because these songs, I'm like, dude, they're structured like stadium arena songs, a lot of them. And a lot of them are structured like and sound like radio pop songs. I
mean, they had a pretty good career of touring. Like they opened for Weezer and Green Day. They played Madison Square Garden. They like you said, they were everybody's favorite. I don't think that they necessarily like missed the mark. Maybe they weren't really cut out for super pop stardom, but I think they're very credible and they've played some amazing shows.
Well, that's the thing is like they are, but I don't know.
Think
maybe
they're pretty
maybe
rated.
To me,
I don't think they're underrated.
Maybe to me, I'm like, why
you think they're underrated?
Not underrated, but I feel like more people should be a more household name. Okay. Like I feel like they should be a more household name, and I feel like we should be playing like as opposed to X song we play every emo night. I feel like we should be playing Saves the Day. Is what I mean. I feel like that's where I feel like there's a disconnect. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because that album came out in 2001. So it was like a couple years before the real surge and rise.
It started the boom, I think. They had so much momentum off of Through Being Cool. They sold, I think, 50,000 copies of Through Being Cool from just touring it and like being out there. And then they were, like you said, they're everybody's fucking favorite band. So then when they came back with Stay What You Are, they had all these major label offers and they were afraid of it. And they ended up at Vagrant because Vagrant was like big enough where they could get a lot of the support they were seeking from a major, but they were just like, I don't know, these major labels like don't feel right to me. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's because they didn't ever take that major label leap.
Dude, Vagrant was my favorite label. Like all of the
Dashboard
compilations.
Confessional.
Yeah.
It was a scene.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was like that was like my scene.
Because you'd see on MTV it'd say like saves the day. And then at the end it would be like copyright Vagrant Records. And then you go up online and you're like, Vagrant Records, who else do they have? And then you fall in love with the rest of their roster.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that when we talk about out bands that you would like if you like Saves the Day. I'm going to come back to that because I have a really, really good one that isn't on Spotify.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I want to know some more facts about this stuff because this is the thing. I just fell in love with the band. I fell in love with that time period. I fell in love with Chris. He's the fucking greatest guy in the entire world.
I'll go through the fast facts that Joni pulled for us.
Shout out Joni.
This is one of Vagrant Records' best-selling releases. It is considered an important and genre-defining album.
I agree.
The band intentionally wrote a slower album because they didn't want to play fast songs live anymore and wanted the melodies to carry the songs.
Hilarious.
Brian Newman, the drummer, left the band after the 2001 summer tour to go to college.
I do want to say something about they did write some slow shit, and I think hearing Freakish for the first time after listening to the first two Saves the Day albums was a real big shock. I was like, oh, this is like at a tempo that I have never heard this band play at.
Yeah.
But somehow still managed to like do the thing where I was like, yes. You know, it was like one of those things where I didn't know if it was going to be a song that I liked because it's not usually like a tempo that I really dig for Saves the Day. I love it. It couldn't be a better song.
I mean, it starts off with At Your Funeral, you know, and that starts slow. Like it definitely builds into that like dancey pop moment, but like what a way to open an album.
I think also what a way to close an album.
With Firefly.
That's my favorite song off the album. I think that song if you don't know this album at all and you're like, I want to get a pretty good scope of what Saves the Day sounds like. I think that song in particular, you'll really get, it's like a well-rounded Saves the Day song. It's my favorite song off the album.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, that's my favorite song off the album. They put out so many B-sides that are incredible.
Okay.
That I love so. Dude, we used to fucking... I'm not going to just continue to tell stories. Anyway, keep going, sorry.
You could tell stories.
No, it was just like, dude, this was like on roofs, you know, like on like the roofs, and it was like nighttime in Tucson, and everybody would have their guitar. It would just be like a drunk sing-along on a roof with shit like this. And it was just not from this album, but from the first two.
I definitely had some drunk sing-alongs in college to At Your Funeral. For sure.
So that's, see, you were a little, like this was, probably got this one. I was like, Cancel It Down, fucking, that got me right away.
Yeah, but even that, you know, that was 11 years after this came out.
And even on Cancel It Down, there's a couple acoustic songs, you know, and that was, you know, when did Dashboard happen?
Dashboard, like peak Dashboard was like 2004, 2003.
So the thing is, like, Chris has had a lot of these acoustic songs banked, and he's awesome. If you go back and if you go through Saves the Day's discography, there's a couple things he did. He did these things called bug sessions, and he plays a lot of these songs acoustic. And all of these songs, like, you can play every single Saves the Day song acoustic, and I think that's how he wrote them. I don't know. You know, it's just, I'm assuming that's how it is because they all sound good on acoustic guitar. I don't know. There's something about this goddamn band that...
It's funny because like I feel like they're like really kind of like a straight up band. You know, like it's really, really a simple...
There's no tricks. There's no like tricks.
It's just like they're all good players. They're not like doing too much. It just feels like a real... basic, like, hey, let's start a band. And it sounds incredible.
Well, if I think what they did was they really each knew their roles. Like, if you listen to the bass lines in some of them, like, that's the things that you sing in your head.
The bass lines on this are nuts.
The bass lines, I'm going to tell you, the bass lines in all of the Saves the Day songs and continuing on with their albums are awesome. Yeah,
I feel like that's really, really... like a defining characteristic. It's like a very busy, lots of like fills and stuff.
Yeah, it's like they're good musicians. Like that kid, the guy who played bass, I forgot what his name was, like Eben or something. I don't know who was in the band at that time. I think he was like a handsome guy. I think he was like a pretty handsome dude. And didn't like really fit the like sceney situation. Like kind of like they were like adjacent. They looked adjacent to it, but they looked like nicer. It was like
they looked like nice boys.
Yeah, they looked like nice guys.
It was funny. It's funny you say that too, because in the book that I always reference for this pod, It was actually a story from Gabe Saporta and how he met Saves the Day, and he was like looking at them, and I think it was that guy Eben, and they were like, he was wearing this like puffer jacket with like a polo Ralph Lauren logo on it, and Gabe was like, that's weird. People don't dress nice at these punk rock shows, and then like went up to him and was like, hey, are you in Saves the Day? And then they kind of became friends.
It was like adjacent, right? It's still like, I think the jeans were a little on the side, but like other than that, it was like, I feel like they were like the Vampire Weekend of this thing, like the thing that we got going on of the scene, a little bit. It was like they're great musicians, they wrote great songs, and they weren't like, felt like they went to college. Like
yeah,
they all felt like
they did. Yeah, they were smart guys.
Yeah, it felt like they all went to like music college.
Yeah, they did. They were NYU guys, and they like they wrote most of Through Being Cool like in the dorms. You know, and Chris was like studying creative writing. Like they're smart.
I'm excited to talk to Chris. I'm you know, we have a good friendship at this point, but I've never really asked him anything about the bands, about like any of the stuff that he's done, because it's, you know, I'm not interviewing a dude. I'm talking to him about his life, you know, and just seeing how he's doing and checking in. But like, I know I'm not giving you any facts here, and I'm telling you my opinions and feelings about it. But with like when we talk to Chris, I'm going to have very, very, very straightforward questions that like I want to have known stuff about this album since it came out.
This is a little bit off topic,
Doesn't
but I
matter.
remember the last time I saw Chris Conley was at Emo Night, like I think at the beginning of this year when we did sports theme. And I loved that he wore a jersey for the football player who is also named Chris Conley.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's the fucking coolest guy, and he's so goddamn sweet and nice. And listening to, you know, it kind of pains you to listen to lyrics sometimes because it feels like he hates himself a lot. Like it really, like, you know, there's a lot of lyrics out there from bands that are not Saves the Day where, you know, they say that shit, but I'm like, I don't know if you believe that. And with Chris, it's like, I believe that. You know, there's a lyric on Can't Slow Down that he says something about like realizing how small he really is. And I think, you know, he's a small guy. He's like me. And that's why I also like related to that. I was like, oh, he's like
yeah.
You know, and he has like, I don't know. It really feels like he didn't like himself in these first couple albums. And it was a bummer, but it made great art, you know? And hopefully it's not true. I hope he fucking loves himself, but I'm going to talk to him a little bit about that when we talk to him, because it's, I don't know, a little nervous. It's a little nervous interview. Like it'll weird, be great. It's one of these things. Like we've met so many people over the years that are really, 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 really big celebrities, and I don't fucking flinch. You know, it doesn't like that was cool, you know, but like nothing like this is you know, something that's like really important. And also, you know, there's a lot of people that are like, don't meet your heroes and shit like that. And this was not that. It wasn't the case like this. Yeah. You know, and he is like just such an outstanding person that it's hard to, you know, knowing him now, it's hard to place the lyrics to the guy that I know. It's a strange journey that I've taken with this life of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Going back to what you said a little bit earlier, you're like, I wonder like what the change was. Did they start smoking weed? I guess it wasn't that he started smoking weed. Well, maybe they went hand in hand, but apparently this is the album. This is Chris's Beatles album.
Yeah.
This was when he discovered the Beatle.
Yeah. That's when he was listening to Beatle.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell. Like it changed.
Yeah.
It was cleaner than Can't Slow Down and Through Being Cool. I'm happy that it was really well received is the thing.
It was. Yeah. It's very well rated.
When you look up on Google, it's like
100% of Google users
were like,
this
is awesome.
album.
Yeah, no, they're like, yeah, this is a good album. 100%. And they should. And I know this is about Stay What You Are, but if you listen to Saves the Day from where they started and where they are now, they are actually an ever-evolving band, but always bringing it back to what they are. I really do kind of urge people to continuously listen. Like, dude, and Reverie was like their Sgt. Pepper. Like, he used Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah, that's when they really got into the Beatles.
And like, I'm like, fuck, dude. You know? But they still managed to, like, saves the day it. And then I think the albums after that, I was so excited. I remember I was so excited when, I forget if it was Under the Boards or there's another one that came out. Hold on, let me look it up. But they all they're fucking so solid all the way through. They're so solid all the fucking way through. It's Under the Boards, and there was 2 that came out right back to back. They had a really, really, really solid run. Under the Boards and Sound the Alarm. Those 2 albums, like, I don't know how well they did. I don't know where the band was at that time, but I can guarantee you if you like Saves the Day and you stopped listening, like, after Stay What You Are, like, go back and listen to those 2 albums in particular, and you will be blown away because they both relate to Can't Slow Down, especially Sound the Alarm. Like, really goes back and feels a lot like a cleaner Can't Slow Down mixed with, like, the pop choruses of this album.
Interesting. I can't say that I've taken a deep dive into those records. I kind of, like, stopped after In Reverie, honestly. So
yeah, those 2 are really good albums. They're really good albums, and I'm not just being a fuck about it because I love them. You know, a good song is a good song and is a good song. And this guy constantly is writing good songs.
Well, speaking of good songs, you said your favorite song off this album is Freakish? Is that
No,
what you
it's
said?
Firefly.
Sorry.
Firefly is my favorite song off this album, and then I think See You, the second song off this album.
I really like See You as well.
Yeah. That's one of those songs. It's like, it's visually disgusting to hear, you know, to hear what he's saying.
That one took me like 3 or 4 listens, and then today I was like, oh yeah, this one's fucking hitting.
It's all I don't dislike any song off the album.
I also really like Cars and Calories.
I knew you would.
Why do you think I would like that?
I don't know, but that's probably my least favorite song off the album.
They said that that's actually the most Beatles inspired one.
That one's, I think that, I remember hearing a story about that song, and I don't know if it's true or something I just, like, made up in my head.
Well, it's a podcast of misinformation, so.
So I think that was the one that they were like, this is the single. Like, we wanted this to be the single, or I don't know. It could be whatever. I'll ask him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think somewhere along the lines, that's the one they wanted.
But it never was.
No.
The only singles were At Your Funeral and then Freakish.
And every other song on the album is good. So.
You don't like Cars and Calories, though?
I do like Cars and Calories. I still think it's 100% song. It's just like, if I had to rank the songs, that would be my, at the end.
I had a weird thing where, like, my first re-listen to this, I really liked Jukebox Breakdown, and then I disliked it more as it kept going. It's not like it's a bad song, but I was just like, it hit me a lot at the beginning, and then I was like, okay, that one's fine now.
He does this thing in his songwriting where, I know what you're talking about, and it's like he has a really, really, really strong tendency to grab you and then be like, this is a Saves the Day song, or this is how I'm going to want this song to sound. So really strong intro, and then like a verse that he's like, this is what I like, and then a really strong chorus. And it kind of takes sometimes, like you said, a couple listens to be like, do I? And then there are songs that on this album that I sing every day in my head, like that are like off, not those 2 that I named. Let me see. Hold on. Like, I can sing every single chorus off of this fucking album. Oh yeah, and you guys listen to the Ups and Downs, the early recordings and B-sides. A Dragon D flat, Sell My Old dude. Ups and Downs, Sell My Old Clothes, I'm Off to Heaven, and a Dragon D flat, and Hold. Jesse, God, all of these songs are fucking great.
Well, they're not on the album.
I know they're not, but I want everybody to like go and listen to them if they don't.
That is illegal.
I know, I'm doing an illegal thing. I knew I would do an illegal thing. Yeah, Certain Tragedy is incredible. Like, All I'm Losing Is Me. Everything. Every single song on this album is fucking good. It's a 10 out of 10. 100% of the Google viewer users agree.
Yeah, so it can't be wrong. This album was produced by Rob Schnaff at Sunset Sound. So I think this is the first time that the guys got out of Jersey to make a record.
Yeah, came to California.
And they did it right here. A little bit, you can feel it. It's a little sunnier. The album cover's sunnier.
Do we know who took that picture? I feel like there's like in that book that Amy Madden wrote. I think there's
a similar picture. Yeah.
It's like, and I was like, oh shit, oh my god. I was like, for me, I'm like big, huge. Like it's a different thing than I know.
It looks so similar. Honestly, Amy maybe took it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think she did.
But Rob Schnaff, Chris really wanted to work with him. And I think this was, him wanting to level up the band. This is like, he was like, I don't want to sign with a major, but I want to step it up. So they found this guy, Rob Schnaff, and Chris wanted to work with him because he did Elliott Smith.
Is that the only thing he did?
Elliott Smith and Beck.
Yeah.
Those were the big ones for Chris. And then I dove into his discography and I thought it was pretty interesting because there's some stuff on here that you love.
What's on there?
Fiddler.
What? Really?
Joyce Manor.
Oh, so this guy is like just does the things that I like.
Yeah, he's your guy.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
good.
if you ever make a record, you should make it with Rob.
Damn, he really knows what the fuck he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Because those are like your favorite things.
Yeah, those are like those are my favorite things.
He also did the Saves the Day self-titled and In Reverie.
In Reverie was a weird one.
It is a bizarre one.
It's a bizarre one.
It's his Beatle.
I really do like it.
Yeah.
I really, really do like it. But I feel like that's where I'm like, dude, the weed. And he's like, the thing is like,
it's his pretty odd. Every band has their Beatles face.
I don't really know any other chillers in the scene besides Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
It's like him and Kenny are like the chillers.
The chill boys.
Yeah. And like it's a really it's a different personality than we normally see. Mm-hmm. And you really like feel it in Reverie.
What else do you want to say about this record, Morgan?
I mean,
you got about 10 minutes. Get it all out. This is your time to shine.
I just don't. Okay. I mean, I don't think that any other bands sound like them.
You don't?
I don't think that any other bands sound like them.
Well, that's why we have the if you like this, you might like that.
Yeah, but I just don't think
you don't think that they sound like Tiger's Jaw or Joyce Manor or Touche Amore or
no.
Mom Jeans.
No. Is that what Spotify recommends?
Or No Pressure?
Is that what Spotify recommends?
No, these are Joni's picks, but I don't disagree.
I just don't, and especially at the time. I really do think, especially at the time, no other band sounded like them. It was like either hard, it was like coming out of hardcore. And this was so poppy. It was so well written, and especially in the scene. Like I feel like that's why it was so special. And nobody sounds like his voice is so unique. He's got a really, really, really unique voice. Is he going to listen to this? I know there are people that don't like his voice. Sure. I'm sure he's heard that.
I think
before.
that's like a classic thing with any emo pop punk. Like,
yeah.
That's the trope of like, oh, the whiny singer.
And his voice like did change over time. And I read somewhere, it was like we'll ask him about why. But I think that there's a reason why his voice changed. But dude, it's fucking, if you go back and listen to like that album, like they were just like kids. They were kids, and it's so impressive. I'm just so impressed with this band. And it defined, like the thing about them is like Jimmy Eat World was like something that I would listen to, like the Clarity was like something I would listen to by myself and driving and like, goddamn. And then Saves the Day was something that went like why we started emo night. It was like put Saves the Day on, get drunk in a house party next to a college and sing all of these songs.
It's a communal thing.
Yeah. And it's like listening to this album. So I'm going to just say like really quickly over the weekend, we went to this wedding in Boston. And there was a moment, you had already gone home, and it was about a 10-second moment. I got out of the car in Boston, Massachusetts at like 2:30 in the morning, and I walked to the front door. And in that moment, like 8 to 10 seconds, I felt what it felt like to be at those parties in the summer when we would used to listen to this. There was frogs. It was dark. It was wooded. It was like muggy. It smelled.
There was something about that night because I was like super nostalgic in the car too. It's like, it was like the first like real feeling of summer that I had, you know? But it was a beautiful New England night, like the perfect amount of humidity, and it's all dark and wooded. And
but that that small, tiny feeling is the way that I feel about this entire album and band. And it's really hard to quantify that to everybody that is listening. It's why I'm like not telling you anything, because you can't tell you a feeling, but I can explain to you what like that nostalgia and that feels like. And it felt like that 8 to 10 second walk at 2:30 in the morning from the car door to the front door.
Well, Saves the Day, I think, going back to it just feeling like communal, they were the foundation of the scene of that third wave. They were born out of like the people that came before them, Lifetime and all these other like Jersey, Long Island hardcore bands. And they kind of were the forefathers of everything else that happened in that third wave. So like Fall Out Boy, Taking Back Sunday, everybody wanted to be a part of what was happening because of Saves the Day. I read something that they were putting Ricky Saporta, Gabe's brother, big promoter in the Jersey scene. He was putting together a Saves the Day show on New Year's Eve, and they were able to just get so many bands from all along the East Coast, like guys from down in Florida and people that just normally wouldn't play in New Jersey, because as soon as they were like, oh, we get to play with Saves the Day, hell yeah. So that feeling that you're talking about, like that sort of communal thing that like when emo music becomes party music, Saves the Day has that at its core as a band, and they sort of built the scene around them.
I mean, even in the Through Being Cool album cover, it looks like everything that I did in high school. Like they nailed it. They really nailed it. And I think what I want and why I, like in the beginning, it's not like why aren't they as big as they are? It's like, I don't understand how everybody doesn't feel the same way that I do when you listen to this. And so in that sense, I'm like, why doesn't every single person in this building know who they are? Why doesn't every single person that works in radio and everywhere know who this band is? Because I think that they did that perfectly. They took my youth and they made it into something that I could hear. Well,
in a way, everybody does, because everything that came after them was based around them.
I never hear any of the fucking bands say Saves the Day. Like I know Gabe and all of the ones that I like all do, but like a lot of the other bands that we've
like Jeff Rickley, Thursday, like all the My Chem guys, like all that fucking Jersey stuff, that all exists because of Saves the Day.
Yeah, I don't know. I am just completely blown away by Saves the Day. I'm trying to put how it feels to listen to them and into words.
All right, let's wrap this up with it. If you like this, you might like that.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
I want everybody to go do this. It's only on YouTube. It's a Hot Rod Circuit album, and it's called The Underground is a Dying Breed. And it's not available on any DSPs. It's only on fucking YouTube for some reason. And it's one of the CDs that I had in my car. Lost it. Didn't listen to it for a really long time because it just didn't exist anywhere on the internet. And then one day I was like, must have been going through some of this shit when we first started Emo Night, and found it again. And it's probably as close as you can get, because I think it was like came out at the same time as this. I think they also were on Vagrant, as I think it was some of those songs on that album were on like a Vagrant mix. And look up Hot Rod Circuit, The Underground is a Dying Breed. Is a the first like 3 or 4 songs are unstoppable, like right away. So goddamn good. I mean, also look, like you can go back and take a bite out of how old I am. And if you've never listened to The Promise Ring, you know, The Promise Ring it's emo, but also pop, right? Like,
Promise Ring is so good.
Yeah. They're a great band. And, you know, it's another band where I go, why are we playing this instead of The Promise Ring?
Yeah. You and all the old heads.
Yeah. But I mean, if everybody like kind of took a step back and went back and listened to it, I feel like we would.
Maybe you need to do a deep cut set in the lobby.
I will. I feel like maybe people will like it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I really want. And, you know, when we first started, that's like what my playlist was.
Yeah.
I actually think I have maybe
Night One, Echo Plex,
I might
or Shortstop.
Yeah, I might have it. Let me look.
I'm sure you do. I have mine for sure on my Spotify.
So check this out. Ready?
Yes.
First song, Sell My Old Clothes, I'm Off to Heaven.
There you
Saves
go.
the day. Second song, Anywhere With You. Saves the day. Third song, You Vandal. Saves the day. Fourth song, From Me to You, Reggie in the Full Effect. Fifth song, Sweet Avenue, Jets to Brazil. American Hearts, Piebald. I Love You So Much It's Killing Us Both. Jawbreaker. Like it's...
Yeah, you should do a set like this on Friday and just see what happens.
I will. I'll take the first set that I ever did.
You should just do it on the main stage.
Should I?
Yeah, fuck it.
It's awesome.
See what happens.
I should, yeah, and like have everybody like be mad at me.
And then you'll be like, okay, never mind. And then Mr. Brightside.
Yeah, and then that's what. And then everybody's like, yes, yes, finally they're playing it.
All right, guys. Well,
What did you say?
I mean, I listed a whole bunch, but yeah, like Tiger's Jaw, Touche Amore, Hotelier. I feel like all that like 2010 like fourth wave stuff was actually kind of a throwback to sort of Saves the Day, like end of second wave, beginning of third wave.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when you said Tiger's Jaw, I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I just wanted to be disagreeable, but yeah, and that's why they are also one of my faves.
Mm-hmm.
So
shocked they weren't also produced by Rob Schnapp.
yeah, I know that he would have just fucking collected them all.
Yeah.
He's like a fucking Pokemon hunter for fucking good bands.
All right, brothers and sisters, we have a great interview with Chris Connelly from Saves the Day right now.
Go listen to all those albums. Go listen to the first like 5 Saves the Day albums in a row.
And then all the B-sides, and then come back and then listen to the interview with Chris.
Yeah, go do that.
Okay, bye.
Bye, fuckers.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the CD Burners podcast. This is a important episode for both of us. Big fans, but especially it's an important deep dive for Morgan. He is the #1 Saves the Day fan in the world. So we are going to try and be respectful
so much to me.
Of your time here and keep the interview to around 30 minutes. And I will try to reel Morgan back in, but I did see all the questions and we have quite a few of them. So we're going to dive in and make sure we're using your time the best we can.
Okay. Also, I'm in no rush, just so you know.
Awesome.
right.
Dude. Yeah, no,
I'm very stoked to be here with you guys.
This was I've
had so much fun with you guys at the emo night events.
Dude, I'm telling you, we've been doing this for so long and I never thought that, in a million years that, I would ever be friends, be friends and it's just it's a really, really strange, beautiful thing for me that I get to, we get to do this.
I feel the same way, dude.
Together.
I'm so stoked to know you guys and be friends with you guys. And you guys are such rock stars. Seeing you guys up there last time, my jaw was on the floor. It was incredible.
Dude, thank you. It's amazing that you think that because I'm just like, like TJ said, I don't want to I definitely want to keep it in the stay what you are realm of things because that's kind of the focus of like the podcast is going through like the albums, but I definitely want to ask you about some stuff and that I've always wanted to know. And so this is, just to be able to do this is a dream come true. So let's start.
I'm an open book.
All right,
okay.
Let's do it, dude. So we kind of we really want to take people back to that time, and we're, what was that time period like for you personally? And is there anything that stands out looking back, like specifically to you, about when Stay What You Are came out?
Gosh, I think that was probably the best time in my life, even up to now. It was just exciting. And so many things were happening, not just to our band, but to so many of the bands we grew up with and had come up with, like, through the early days of the scene, before there was ever like this notion that things could go mainstream. Bands that were literally like playing on the floors with people, no stages, no backstages, no nothing like that, and hanging out in the parking lots and whatever. That year, things were really, really starting to happen. And it was a total thrill. And we were lucky because we got to record that album with Rob Schnaff, who was a hero of ours because he's the producer that discovered Beck and Elliott Smith and did like almost all of Elliott Smith's albums, produced all of Elliott Smith's albums. And we had started to kind of write some songs that were like a little bit more intricate. So we were kind of pumped up about that. But it was a time when you felt like anything could happen. I mean, it really felt like any of the bands back then were like poised to like explode. And it all started really with the Get Up Kids. I feel like we're the first band where it felt like, oh my God, this band could be like the biggest band in the world. And you'd watch them at like Crazy Fest, or like any VFW hall or anything. And it was like Madison Square Garden. People were going bonkers, and there were like thousands of people lining up. And so it was just a thrill. It was just such an exciting time.
It's really interesting that you said the hanging out in the parking lot, because that's like one of my very, very specific moments after shows. That's like what we did. We used to go to, it was like in Tucson, Arizona. We used to go to this place after shows called Nico's Tacos. DJ. And everybody.
In Tucson.
That's like,
oh, dude.
That's like what we did. And it's just like,
that's the stomping grounds.
Is that and Scrappy's, and I just, it's okay. I'm gonna
dude, that's so awesome. I'm getting emo goosebumps. I get them all the time, but when things are really special, that is so cool. I love Tucson so much. That's so cool that you grew up there.
It's a really special place, and it really reminds me a lot. And I think that, like you said, like Get Up Kids, there are a couple other bands that really, like you said, this was your favorite time. It was my favorite time. This was my favorite time to look back on. And Stay What You Are came out at a point when I think I personally really needed it. And I know that a lot of other people really, really needed it. And
that's amazing.
So
that's amazing. You know what just popped into my head, which is so weird. That was such a dreamlike time of like wonderment and like amazing things happening, and anything could happen. And that came out. It came out. Actually, what's crazy, guys? Stay What You Are came out on this day, July 10th, 2001. So it's 23 years ago today.
That's wild.
So what I was going to say, what
are you serious?
Yeah. Like when we moved
happy anniversary, dude. We should have fucking known that.
Dude, thank you so much. But what's crazy is like it was this time that was kind of magical, innocent period. Because 2 months later, right? Let's see, September 11th happened. 2 months later.
Damn.
Which is just crazy. And like everything is like the aftermath of that. Now we're living in the world like after that happened now. So that's kind of like the feeling before the album came out was that like world before all of that.
That's, dude.
And then reality came crashing through.
It's crazy because I didn't put that together. And the fact that life was so innocent before that. Yeah. And then after that, everything shifted. And I feel like it hasn't been the same. And it
hasn't been the same feeling. It hasn't been everything's more serious. And I guess that makes sense because like everyone was so young then. And of course the world has always been so complicated and painful, and dangerous. but I think we grew up in kind of this bubble where even if you didn't have a lot of money, you could go to a show and like meet like-minded people. And there was kind of like a bohemian element of like everybody belongs together, you know? And I mean, my hope is that we forge a path through all of the chaos to the other side where we can like get together again and possibly in a bigger way, a more global way. But
That's the way
yeah,
that
so reflecting on that time, that's kind of like, it's a before and after feeling.
I like it's sort of the way that I feel about the pandemic. It was like the veil kind of got lifted because emo night
That's a good analogy.
Very, we were like it felt like I was a little young to understand the severity of 9/11, even though I did know, but it was still, we had that youth, like that youthful innocence.
Yeah, and you guys were like blowing up, and then all of the gatherings get shut down. So it's very much a similar parallel experience at a different point in time, because we were like about to blow up. I remember that summer, we were the most added song to radio that summer with At Your Funeral. And it got like the most ads, like every week it got exponentially more ads to radio. And then when September 11th happened, they had to pull At Your Funeral from the airwaves. Remember, they like took Jimmy Eat World's album Bleed American like off the shelves.
They had to change it
and repackaged it and like put it out as, I guess it's maybe their self-titled record or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was weird.
And so it was just like that, like, yeah, about to blow up, and then everything changes. So I totally see how like the pandemic, like for you guys throwing these massive events is like a similar like earth change, sea change, or rather.
Absolutely.
What did, you being so young when all of this stuff happened, what did your family think about you pursuing music, and especially like, this style of music?
Right. That's a good point that you bring up this style of music. Because I was raised playing classical music just as part of like a school program. I don't think my parents ever expected me to go into music. My parents were both judges, and I think my dad thought I'd be an attorney or an engineer or something. And he always said, "You could do anything. Why aren't you going to school?" I went to school for 1 year. And then we recorded Through Being Cool at the end of our spring semester. And the drummer and I went to NYU together. We decided, let's take some time off. And we never went back to school. And I think that was tough for our parents at that time, because there was no way of knowing how big the whole scene would become. Like at that time, the scene itself, the scene that we all celebrate, was still so small. I mean, like a big show at that point in time when we decided to take off from school, this is 1999, May of 99. The scene, like a big show would be like 200 people would be like huge. And you'd feel like, oh my God, I can't believe there's 200 people here. Cause it started as like 5 or 10 people, really you'd go to Indianapolis and you'd be lucky if 5 people came, and 3 of them would be like grimacing.
I talk about it all the time, but like, that's how it was like basements, kitchens, community centers. Like
seriously. Yeah. Thank God for the community centers. It's awesome. Like reflecting back, I went back to Princeton, New Jersey recently and went to this place called the Arts Council, where they used to let punk bands and hardcore bands play every single weekend. And they'd have like Hare Krishna events and stuff. And Ray Capo from Youth of Today and Shelter would come and give talks about Hare Krishna. And it was all at these community centers, and then the VFW halls and whatnot, and basements and stuff. So it's like moms and dads are so important. Like, it'd be rare that like someone's older brother would throw a show at their like college, like crash, whatever. But like moms and dads and communities and whatnot.
Dude, this is it's a little off topic, but I feel like we're kind of getting back there. There's a lot of young kids that I know that are doing very similar stuff to that, as of late.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It's so sick. It's so cool. And I hope that they have the same feeling that like we had doing this
Yeah.
it's like it sounds a little bit different. It
I
looks
bet
a
they
little bit
need
different.
it so much. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. That's cool that you said that, because like when we were coming up, we were just like on the coattails of all these bands and spaces that came before us, and everything looked and sounded a little bit different, you know, but it is a continuum, like an evolving continuum for one generation to the next. And it's exciting now because like a lot of music is kind of blending. I remember on Stay What You Are, it was the first time we ever got into the Beatles, and we were coming from being like pure punk hardcore kids, and then got into the Beatles. So the music started to like evolve a little bit. Nowadays, people are listening to like country and reggae, like all at the same time, you know, and pop music is all infused. It's really cool. It's kind of an awesome, exciting time to see what comes next.
Yeah, we were just talking. I've just been talking about this, and I feel like, you know, our scene was the last one that you had to really work to be a part of and find your people. And now in the internet, you can find all of those people so much easier. That's why I feel like, you know, there's a humongous relationship between the people that grew up with this and why we still do it. Like why we still do it. We had to work hard to find how to dress and who to be with. That's a
good point.
And now you can
like you'd see, I remember you'd see like a flyer on a telephone pole, and that's how you knew there was a show before like the internet and whatnot. And then you'd go and like the 15 people that were there, they all saw a flyer in their town. And so everybody wound up in the same garage, you know, and you get to know friends. So it's kind of like hard fought community.
You had to fight. You had to like fight to find your people. And while I think it's incredible, while I think it is incredible that now we're able to connect with people from anywhere, wherever, that was just, you know, it was like I don't know, like put in the work to be like, we're part of this thing. We put in, you know, and so it was the last one. We were the last one before the internet was like, here's everything. But
here's everything. That's a good quote. That could be like the tagline for the internet.
Dude, here's everything. You don't have to work really hard. You did mention, you know, like I said, I do want to stay what you are. Got to do it. But you said that is a two-parter, right? And so, Stay What You Are sounds so different from Can't Slow Down and Through Being Cool. And the big question that I had, as simple as it is to ask, is why? And, you know, was it the process of growing as a songwriter, or was this an intentional shift?
The only time there was an intentional shift was going from Can't Slow Down to Through Being Cool, because when we got home at the end of our tour that we did to promote Can't Slow Down, the guys in the band sat me down at the table and in my mom's house above the basement where we would rehearse. And they said, look, we've been talking and we don't want to play the fast beat anymore. So I was like, okay, like I love mid-tempo music. They're like, yeah, we like playing Always 10 Feet Tall and The Choke the best on the road. Those songs feel really good. We don't feel like as good playing the fast music. So they were like, let's slow it down. And I was like, awesome. That works for me. So then on Through Being Cool, we made a conscious decision to have mid-tempo songs. And I really love Jawbreaker. Well, I love Jawbox as well, but I love Jawbreaker and Hot Water Music. And so those bands became a little bit more important, like in influencing our sound. And like the Foo Fighters album, The Color and the Shape had come out with like Monkey Wrench and My Hero and Everlong, like those songs. And when we went to produce Through Being Cool with Steve Evans, we tried to match their guitar tones and just kind of like go for that feel of the production. So those were like really conscious decisions. And then when we got to Stay What You Are, it was largely the influence of the Beatles, discovering the Beatles, and some like mind altering substances came into the mix, and I don't condone any of that, but that like altered the sound as well as your consciousness. And so the lyrics became introspective in a different way. And we'd had a near death experience on the road touring through Being Cool. We flipped our van after we hit some black ice and like flipped the van. And it was like you thought in the blink of an eye you were going to die. And it was like really scary. And also you like standing there on the side of the road afterwards, all the colors were brighter and the sounds were more crisp, and you were like more alive after almost dying. So like that was a big, so then the first song on Stay What You Are is At Your Funeral. So it's like a dramatic shift. The last song on Through Being Cool is about like love at first sight, like falling in love at first sight at a house party. And then the very next album starts with this like super deep track. So that was a lot of the evolution in a nutshell.
Chris, you talked a lot about the community that you grew up in and how important this scene was. And, you guys were all coming up together, playing shows together, obviously taking influence from each other. This album, you mentioned you recorded with Rob Schnapp. You also recorded it here in California instead of,
Yes.
back home in New Jersey. Do you think that had an influence on how this album ended up turning out?
I'm so glad you brought that up, TJ. As a matter of fact, we thought we had the whole album written before we came to California. And there were going to be like 11 or 12 songs on it that we knew were going to be the next album. And as soon as we got out to California and we started rehearsing the songs out in the sunshine, and because we did it in the winter too. So we came from the cold of winter to the sunshine. Like in January, it's like the sun's out, you go for a walk and it's gorgeous, and the sidewalks are glittering in the sun, and the grass is greener than you've ever seen. And as soon as we brought the songs out here, there was a different life to them. And also straight away, I wrote two of my favorite songs I've ever written. And these are the first two songs I wrote in California. And the first one was Cars and Calories, which is the third song on the album. That's probably my favorite song I've ever written. I just love that song. It just came out like within 3 minutes, the song just like spat out. So it was like very much part of the spirit of being in California. And then a couple nights later, we were over at the apartment where we were living. Coincidentally, it was Gerard Butler's apartment. He was away in Australia making like a Dracula movie or something. And we were up late, and another song popped into my head, and that was the melody for Certain Tragedy. And that song's like very much like a California kind of song. I wouldn't have written that on the East Coast. Both of those songs are very upbeat and have sunshine in them. Like they feel more bouncy and upbeat and optimistic too. Even those Certain Tragedies, it's really about embracing the fact that life is, built out of impermanence, and to search for something more and not get too bummed out about that fact. Those songs are like trying to lift up out of the sad, cold East Coast feeling.
It's so funny that you say two parts. Do you have any of those songs that were going to be on the album?
Yes.
Have you did you put them out, or do you still have them?
I don't think they've come out yet, but I would like to, if things work out, I'd like to do a 25th anniversary issue of Stay What You Are, which will be not next year, but the year after in 2026, and put all of the demos on there.
That'd be incredible.
I'll give you all the money in my bank account to do that.
You're the best, dude. Oh, you know what? I just remembered one of the songs has come out already. It's a song called Ups and Downs.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's I think it's the very first song on our B-sides record, which is called Ups and Downs. So that song was I was like convinced that that would be the second song on the album. Totally convinced. I loved that song so much. And then when we brought it out here and I had written these 2 new songs, there was something about how Ups and Downs fit in the new batch of songs. Like, cause we could have made it 12, we could have made Stay What You Are 12 songs instead of 11 or 13. There were 13 songs by that point that we really liked. But the 2 songs that we left off, Ups and Downs and another song called For Erminy, just didn't hang in the group of songs now. And I think especially because Cars and Calories and Certain Tragedy were so upbeat, they brought like a new liveliness and a new poppy quality to the music. And those other songs are really, really good and really cool. I love Ups and Downs. But it just somehow weighted the album in a different way when you'd listen to it in a group as a group.
And you wanted that to be the second. I'm going to go back and listen to.
I like really thought. Yeah, I was convinced, and like, because also if you listen, like at your funerals, like this song about impermanence, you know, kind of, and like, or you know, when somebody that you cares about passes away, essentially, and all the things you wish you could have done for them or wish they could have done for themselves. And then Ups and Downs is about facing impermanence and wanting to break through all of that. And, you know, like find the like essence, the core of, you know, what your being is and what the point of being is. You know, it's about trying to rise above all that. It's psychologically.
I don't, you know, we're staying on Stay What You Are, but the B-Sides album is like, those are so close.
I think it could have been really cool as a second song too. Like you just said, going back and listening to Stay What You Are with that song in there. It could have been At Your Funeral, Ups and Downs, See You, Cars and Calories, and yada, yada, yada. It could
I'm going to have to make that as a playlist on Spotify and just like listen to it.
Sweet. One of my favorite things to do is, I heard that the Beatles, when they were making Sgt. Pepper's, the first 2 songs they made were Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. And then their record label was like hounding them for new material. So they put that out as a single. And this producer, George Martin, says the worst mistake he ever made was leaving those off Sgt. Pepper's. So when I listen to Sgt. Pepper's, I crowbar those bad boys straight back in there.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna. Nice. That's what we're doing, dude. It's funny that you said that about Cars and Calories, because that's TJ's favorite song off the album.
That's so cool.
And I by no means say this with any disrespect, because I love that song, but that's like my least favorite song off of the album.
Really? Nice.
Dude, it really is. It's just because I love the other songs so much. Like it's so wild. And I don't want you to think by any means I don't like that song. I still think it's better than every song that's ever existed, but off of the album,
totally.
That's
like for me, on Abbey Road, She's So Heavy is probably my least favorite song, even though it's a lot of people's favorite song, but I still love that song.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't dislike it. It's just not my favorite one on that record.
And it's weird that you wrote that song in the Vagrant Records.
I feel awful even saying that. Yeah. I wrote it in the Vagrant Records office. And they had like one office that wasn't being used. And I went in there with the guitar, and I had definitely smoked a joint, and it just came through.
You're and it was really, really cool. And celebrities, and you're like, I'm going to just, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. And also when that was the first time we really spent time in Hollywood. We made the record right off of Sunset Boulevard, down Fountain, like 2 blocks beneath like kind of the hub of where Hollywood is happening. And in Gerard Butler's apartment, like I was saying. Right. So it was weird to be in the heart of all that as like Jersey kids, essentially. And so it was like, there was a superficiality that was palpable. And at that time, being more cynical than I am now, like I kind of had to write about it in a sort of subversive way. But at the end of the day, that song is still about the loneliness and emptiness that comes with that kind of like with living in a culture like that. Just wanting something more,
You said saying it out loud feels bad, and as soon as I said it out loud, I felt bad.
Right. I was trying to relate because I know exactly what you mean, and I'm totally cool. I'm totally cool with it.
No, yeah,
1,000%.
I want to talk about the lyrics a little bit because this was the first time that I heard lyrics that I related to more than any other lyrics I've heard anywhere else.
Very cool, dude. That's so cool.
Did you have a way of describing like self-hatred that I never heard before?
Oh, yeah, dude. That's my life's blood right there.
Did they also, like, at the same time, it was like, I didn't know you then, and it made me go, damn, I hope that he is okay, and I never felt that way about it. I never felt that way.
Very sweet
about an artist. I didn't, and I felt
very, very sweet.
And did you notice at the time that while other bands were usually singing about things happening to other people, you were singing and writing about things that you wish would happen to you? And did anybody ever pull you aside and were like, are you okay?
Yeah, everybody always said, are you okay? Like everyone was always worried about me, and rightfully so. Like I have not been well. It's like a lifelong journey of trying to like figure out how to be okay as a human being, because it's really fucking hard. And people were always worried. And the thing is, I never thought about how the songs might be different. I heard the same kinds of emotions expressed in my favorite bands. Like I always reference this lyric by the Smiths in their song, There's a Light That Will Never Go Out. I think that's the title. And he says, like, if a 10-ton truck killed the both of us, to die by your side is such a heavenly way to die. Like, that's just like an awesome line to me. But so then there's stuff like there's like really gut wrenching lyrics on Beatles songs too. So I don't think it's anything super unique. I did after a while notice that other bands started to sing a lot more like kind of graveyardish images and stuff. But that was part of a continuum as well. If you think of like the Misfits, who were also a Jersey band, or like the Damned, that stuff didn't come out of nowhere, and I didn't invent anything. I was just singing about how bummed I was, like just to like an incredible, like eternal sadness. And it helped me, to like just get it out and understand it. And it's a continual process. Like I'm just constantly trying to like work on happiness. It's a real problem, I think, for humans, whatever they call it, the human condition. Mm-hmm. It's nuts. It's like the first noble truth of Buddhism is life is suffering. And so it's rough out here. And for me, I think I've been so sensitive my whole life that I couldn't ignore it. I just couldn't ignore it. I can't ignore it. Like, it feels sometimes like I have raw skin or something, like I don't have enough of a protective layer, and I think that's true of a lot of people. And I admire people that can seem more normal, or like, experience life in a more seemingly comfortable way. Dude, I wish that I were like that. And I'm still working on it. It may be a lifelong thing, but I'm hoping to eventually figure it out.
Look, well, you're doing a good job every time, I've hung out with you. You at least seem normal. I'm doing my best also to just at least seem normal. And I'm like jealous. Yeah, I understand.
I know exactly really what you're talking about. Yeah. I work really hard on just trying to like stay above the like sadness,
What have you found that helps you?
It's brutal. So for me, there's a lot that helps that's super, super important. Number one is like my frame of mind. So I read a lot of books that help. I'm not like any one particular faith, but I love a lot of the stuff I read from Buddhism. It helps me keep like a good perspective. And trying to do things that make me feel good as opposed to doing things that make me feel bad. Like, for example, if I go out and walk in nature, you know, I feel better. Like it's just guaranteed, you know? But like, on the other hand, like if I drink too much coffee, which I love, and I'm not good at doing this, but if I drink too much coffee, I feel like crap. And then like stuff like that, like little easy things. So like my wife is a certified personal trainer, so she's really good at making sure I stay in motion. You know, so that's been extremely helpful. That's something I never really did too much, like leading up to like sort of a more recent transition that I've had to go through just from like, you know, to get my head in the right place. Like the pandemic, everything was very difficult for everybody. You could feel it all around you, you know, how tense everything is. You know, and it's easy. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in all that. So it's kind of become like a constant need to stay on top of it. Here's the number one thing though, aside from all that, the frame of mind, and then going for a walk, like doing actions that make me feel good as opposed to actions that make me feel bad. But this always sounds so simple and so dumb, I would say to a lot of people, but conscious breathing. Like consciously breathing is so key. And I've learned like so many breathing techniques that help so much. Like you'd be amazed. I remember when I first found out about it, I was at one of the lowest points of my entire life. And somebody gave me this book called Breathe, You Are Alive by Thich Nhat Hanh, this really cool Buddhist philosopher guy. And I read that and I started to breathe with these little exercises that he gave. And it was really hard at first, like honestly hard, almost like if you start thinking about walking, it becomes a little awkward. So it was like tough to like pay attention to my breathing. But now this is like, this is when I was 24. So this is 20 years ago. I'm 44 now. So now it's so important to me, and it's like second nature. Like I'm constantly thinking about breathing, like paying attention to my breathing, making sure I take like a full inhalation and maybe a slow exhalation. So my new favorite one for relaxation is 2 breaths in through the nose, like 1 breath to fill your lungs and then 1 short one to like maximize it. Like, and then the longest breath out through the mouth. And like, as I let all my muscles relax, that's like, it's awesome. It's almost like short circuits the stress and tension in your body. And so you just feel super, super relaxed. And a new thing I've been doing is getting just a little bit of sun every day, you know, a little bit of that natural light. I used to wear sunglasses all the time because like, I just didn't want to make eye contact. You get feelings from people when you make eye contact sometimes, and sometimes it's awful. Like when people have this energy that's coming out of them that I'm too sensitive, and it will like ruin my day. So I used to walk around just kind of like with my eyes on the floor, but like behind these lenses. I haven't worn sunglasses in about a year, I would say, because I've been trying to let natural light filter in through my eyeballs. It seems to help the happiness.
Love that.
TJ, how similar do we sound?
I mean, Chris
You
sounds
guys are
like
on
he's
that tip
actually,
too?
No, I'm talking about me and you. Like
Chris
we
sounds like he's
all of-
actually implemented things to make his life
he's
better,
a
whereas
little bit older than me.
absolutely refuse to do anything, like get in motion,
Dude, but here's,
stop drinking coffee, eat healthy.
Dude, it has been such a long journey for me, because like I probably started getting interested in this kind of thing when I was like 19. And so this is like 1,000 years later. And like, I feel a little bit more stable and secure and a little bit like more resolved into like what I have to do and like staying on top of it. Cause it's so easy to just like let yourself slide into like infinite sadness, you know? So it seems like a full-time job.
it's a full-time job, and it takes a long, so there's some people learn slower than others. Like self-knowledge avails us nothing. Just because we know doesn't mean we're actually going to do it and take the action.
It's rough. Well then, but self-knowledge can also include knowing that you're not doing enough, or knowing that you have a realization, then you don't act on it. So that's part of self-knowledge too. You know, that's like self-knowledge. That's cool that you brought that up, because, you know, like whoever, Socrates or Aristotle or somebody, Plato, one of these guys, I think it was Socrates, said, know thyself. You know, it's pretty cool. And then like, love thy neighbor as thyself. You know,
it's just like, I know these things, but it's the action. It's like taking that action. It's taking that step.
It's like climbing up it's like climbing up a mountain, and like, it's the one step forward, two steps back thing. But then it's also as simple as like, my wife and I were listening to Dag Nasty yesterday while we were working out, and it's the album Wig Out at Danko's. And the first song, I think it's called The Godfather. He's making a very simple analogy about when he was a kid, he heard the story about the little train that thinks it can, you know, and he's like, sometimes I only think I can. But, you know, so he's like, as a grown man, he's like using that analogy to like get himself motivated and out of a rut, you know? So there's little by little, it's good to have a community too, like a group, like us knowing each other. And even having this conversation in this very moment is key and part of our collective journey, you know? So like, I know from here on out, we're going to go in our 3 separate ways, but like our days are going to be different because we talked about it today. And we know that we're not alone in the process and in the journey, you know, and on the path toward better days.
I mean, just hearing you speak about this and like how you are as a person, like makes me understand why 20 years ago I was like, I relate so much to this guy, this band in general.
That's so cool. Thank you so much, Morgan. It's a shared feeling.
It's so cool. You're like, you know, just in general, like you are like, you know, it's like you say, like a lot of people, especially when we've been doing this, right? It's like people are like, yeah, and you hear that all the time. It's like, don't meet your heroes. And it's been the exact opposite for me. It's been the exact opposite, because every single person that I'm like, damn, I really love that guy. I hope he is the way that I want, you know, like I really hope so. And
well, that means like, a lot to hear you say that. There are people that I've had really bad experiences with that would not say that at all. And I've had the same experience meeting some people that are like really inspiring, and then some people that are disappointing. And then people change too, you know? So like, I think it's really good to let people grow. And like, I know that's like what's most important about it to me and about my life is I want to do better. Like, I don't want to be sad forever. And I want to try to make people happy. And I've not done that every moment of my life. And sure. Because I've been struggling with my own stuff, and there's no excuses. There's just like every day you have to get up and try to do something better, you know, and it's tough.
It's a rough one, dude. Okay.
It is.
So I every single time I listen to any Saves the Day album, this is a dork question. I don't want to talk about bass on an interview, but the bass sounds the best in every Saves the Day album, even all from all of the like the old stuff to like Under the Board. All of it is like my favorite bass tone. All of it. Was that you?
Oh, dude.
Or like what?
We've been so lucky to have such sick bass players since on Through Being Cool. We got, or actually the EP right before Through Being Cool. This guy, Eben D'Amico, joined our band, and we snatched him. It was a bad thing to do, but he was such a good bass player. I straight up wrote him on AOL Messenger. I was like, hey, dude, will you play for Saves the Day? And he's like, absolutely. So he quit his band. It's so bad. Their band was called Yearly, and they were so good. We all stayed friends though, and the other two guys in Yearly, aside from Eben, when he joined Saves, they started the band called the Strider.
I remember Strider.
The Strider was really cool. They're on Equal Vision, and they recorded their first demos in my mom's basement after all this happened. So there wasn't like a ton of bad blood, I don't think. But once we got Eben D'Amico in the band, he played with his fingers, and he was just so melodious. Like all of the melodies and bass lines, he would come up with so much of that stuff just off the top of his head. Like he was a real genius, a true genius. There were several bass lines even at that time that I wrote, like the bass line for My Sweet Fracture, that the song is like based around, no pun intended, but that the song is based around. I wrote that just as a riff, but then Eben like put in all these flourishes, and he would just like have the tastiest licks every single time. And he'd do like 3 takes, and every take would be different. So he's like just spewing melodies. And then after Eben, we were so lucky to get Manny from Glassjaw. And Glassjaw is one of my favorite bands ever. And Manny Carrera from Glassjaw is such an incredible bass player, also played with his fingers. And he had a grittier, like distorted tone. But he would just shred these incredible melodies. And again, there are certain like songs that are based around these bass lines that I would write as riffs. But then those guys would come in and like just add these incredible touches that made it just so special and so unique. And then after Manny, we finally got Rodrigo Palma, and he's like my favorite bass player I've ever played with. Rod has been in the band since 2009, which is about 1,000 years now. And Rod plays with his fingers and pick, and he palm mutes the strings and plays with the edge of his thumb sometimes. He's a nut. I call him Rodrigo Paul McCartney, because Paul McCartney is my favorite bass player ever. But Rod is like, he's up there. I swear Rod is up there, and he really knows his harmonies, and he knows music theory. He knows diminished chords and funky, music theory and stuff like that. It elevates the music. So we've been super lucky.
I just had to shout it out because I feel like it's, look, the songs are like the guitar, the lyrics, everything about them is like my favorite. And then there's very few bands where, when a bass line is coming up, when a thing is coming up, how it's going to sound.
They're hooks in and of themselves.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The first, the one bass run at the end of At Your Funeral is just so sick.
Dude, and I just and even all the new stuff. The tone is really great, and that's what I started playing because I didn't know any. I was not good enough.
Oh, hell yeah!
Guitar, so I've always just been I always listened to that, and it's just something that I've always wanted to ask if you were conscious of how fucking sick the bass was on all of this stuff. And if
100%.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Dude, I really like bass like that. So I encourage the melodies, but those guys are geniuses. All 3 of them.
I don't know if you, I don't really like Press that much. I feel like they kind of do ask the same things over and over again. And, and it's just
You've
like,
noticed?
Yeah. It's just I'm why are you just look it up? But it didn't seem like at the time it was really hard for, I knew everything that I knew about Saves the Day from knowing Saves the Day and being a fan of Saves the Day and trying to look up stuff about you guys and find there was there's an interview of you where you're just so sweet and young, and it's me and TJ watched it together and we were dude, Chris is so cute and awesome, and it was just so
Thanks, guys.
Wholesome and cool. But it was really difficult for me to find a lot of stuff about you, your interview wise. And I don't know, knowing the lyrics so well, was that a conscious decision for you to be I don't want to do a lot of that? Or do you, how do you,
or did you do a lot
there
of
have been times, yeah. There's probably a little bit of both. I've done a million interviews, but they are all exactly the same. So I'm sure with the internet, like as an avalanche of information, it just all gets washed away. But also there were consciously periods of time where it was just not something that was good for us to be doing. And I didn't want to, I was so detached from like everything in life that like, it was like tough for me. Like the best I could do was show up and play, and like I couldn't do any press. I couldn't do any acoustic appearances. I couldn't do any meet and greets. Like it was a miracle that I could just go on tour and like barely make it through a show. And that's just because of like severe depression and not knowing yet at those periods of my life how best to deal with it. So thank God, I'm finally at a place in my life where I feel like I know how to manage it a lot better. And so I'm open to more opportunities, but yeah, it's a little bit of both.
So Chris, looking back on this album, and obviously, as we just discussed, a lot of the press questions and answers are the same. Is there anything about Stay What You Are that people maybe don't know that you've never talked about before that you want to talk about? Is there anything in the recording process, the band, the tracks, anything that comes to mind that maybe you haven't had a chance to speak on?
That's a really, really cool question. The first thing that comes to mind is we did it in a really cool studio, Sunset Sound, with Rob Schnaff, who was like the coolest dude ever in the world. And there was 2 rooms, Sunset Sound. There was an A room and a B room. And we did most of the drums on one side of the studio. And then we went to the other side of the studio to finish up. And the other room is where Prince did all of his albums before he built Paisley Park and Paisley Mansion, when he like built a studio in Minnesota. So that was the room where Prince did all of his music. So that was cool to like be in there, in the room where Prince had made his albums. But I think the most important thing about that time was meeting Rob Schnaff, because at that time as a guitar player, I had only been playing guitar for about 6 years when I met Rob. 6 or 7 years. Yeah, 6 years. It was 7 years by the time the album had come out. I'd been playing guitar. But I started as a cello player, which is all single notes. So then I started playing like Led Zeppelin riffs when I first started getting a guitar, which are like 1 or 2 notes, not that dissimilar to the cello, 1 note at a time. And then in punk rock, I was using power chords, which are like 1 or 2 or 3 notes. And then on Through Being Cool, I was using those 3 notes and stretching out a little bit more to like try to make more interesting sounds, and maybe adding a 4th note. By the time we got to Stay What You Are, I was trying to add more notes. I still didn't know that much about the guitar. So Rob Schnaff noticed that I was like stretching for stuff on the guitar that wasn't like typical guitar chord shapes. And he's like, I see what you're doing with that chord right there. Do you know how that works? And do you know like why you're like reaching way up there? And also you could do the same thing if you like, you could do the same thing with all your fingers over here. If you realize that you can weight the chords different, you could have like, instead of this low note coming first, it could come up here on the guitar and this finger could get it. This note that's up here, you could play on this string like that. And then all of a sudden you can shift like the, I forget what they call that, the voicings of the chords. Mm-hmm. So you could play all the same notes, but just on different frets, different places. So I started to play around with the chord shapes, and that blew my mind. He taught me how chords were built in terms of music theory. So you have your one note, your like home note, the root note, and then on top of that the one note, you can have a major third or a minor third, and that determines the color of the whole chord. And then on top of that, let's say on top of your major third, you could have a major third or a minor third on top of that. That determines if it's like minor, diminished, augmented. And so on top of whatever the first third on top of the first, you add 3 notes together, and very simply, you can make any chord with 3 notes. And it's all these like little half step changes and stuff. And it shattered my brain. As soon as I'll never forget, he showed me that and it shattered my brain. And I was like, and that was like an epiphany, like the most important epiphany of my life, aside from like spiritual epiphanies, was that how you build chords. And then that summer, a friend of mine taught me 5 jazz chords in 5 different positions. And I was just like off and running. And then in Reverie was like built on all that new knowledge.
It does make sense, dude. That like, it's like, that's how you started that, knowing that, and like listening to the progression of Saves the Day. Like you're like, oh yeah, that's when you, dude, this is so cool. And so, awesome.
And another really cool thing that we learned from Rob Schneff that then became a part of my experience and journey was he taught us about song structure, because we were going from like just punk simple structures, but sometimes in punk music, it's a little less defined than like popular structure. Like you have very defined structures in popular music, and that became fascinating to me. So for example, in the version of Freakish before the album, when we were in pre-production, the bridge had 2 sections. So the bridge had an A section and a B section, and it kind of went on forever. Like it was just too long. And we got a little bit of that from like Pinkerton, the Weezer album. They would have these songs that would have like 5 parts. And so a lot of the songs had these kind of like meandering sections. And Rob would say, like, for example, in Freakish, he's like, I'm getting lost in the second half of that bridge. And that was another light bulb moment for me when he said that when we were working on Freakish. And I thought, oh my God, what if we just do the heavy, cool part at the beginning and just cut out the part where it breaks down and it's like meandering, like just do the cool part. So that was really cool.
I think at the time, I hope I'm not wrong, but I think Freakish might have been the slowest song that Saves the Day had put out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And were you like at all concerned with how the fans of Through Being Cool and Can't Slow Down would have received?
No, dude, I never thought about any of that until after In Reverie, and people are like, whoa, this is way different. Thank God, because I was able to evolve without like being self-conscious of, are people going to understand this? I just remember writing Freakish and like just finding these cool chord like voicings. And this is before I learned anything from Rob. And I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. Like later I would know that was like a minor chord that I was playing. And then I would stretch and it just sounded so dope. Like, I don't know. I just loved how it sounded. So I was just messing around on an acoustic guitar. And so I was alone in my bedroom and I wasn't thinking about how the drums would be played, how it would sound as a full band. But I was also really lucky in that my bandmates really liked the songs that I was writing. Like they would never really be like, I don't like that one. Sometimes they would say like, I don't love those lyrics. And then I would, write something better. But a lot of the time they were just really jazzed about the direction of the music. So they were super supportive. And I think the most important person in terms of that support was Brian Newman, who's the only other original member that we ever had in the band. He's the guy that asked me to come and play when I learned how to play guitar when I was 13. He was like, come over and jam. And if it weren't for him, I never would have thought to be in a band. I just liked playing acoustic guitar. And Brian was always super, super open-minded. And he had like really cool taste. And he always liked like the most cutting edge music. And so he was just always super supportive and super encouraging about the songs I was writing. And since he and I started day one, like with me on the first day I ever, played guitar, the first song I ever wrote was with Brian on drums, he knew since day one the entire evolution of me as a songwriter. So he was right there by my side the entire time. So by the time we get to Freakish, and he and I have played together for a handful of years, he's like really encouraging me because he knew how much I had been growing since the start. So he was a really important band member.
Chris, we're gonna jump over to our Patreon exclusive here and just ask you a few questions. We're gonna wrap up the public interview here with just one more question, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty, the deep stuff. All right, Morgan, fantastic. You want to ask this last question here?
Yeah, I do. I have so much other stuff to talk to you about, but dude, to me like this. This was probably the time that I look back at my life with, for real, like lack of better terms. I don't like saying it, but like nostalgia and fondness, kind of like when in the 2015 emo night era, like those are the two times, like when Stay Where You Are came out and that 2015. And this is a big question, but are there, are there any moments that you look back or remember or you think about that you're like, wow, I wish that I could relive that or feel again, even though I know that
that's a cool.
Yeah, it's like I know that we feel things differently and, that we'll always remember things differently. But this period in particular I look back at that with a different type of fondness that I don't look at any other part of my life with. And I'm just wondering for you if are any moments where you're like, fuck, dude, that.
Yeah, that's a cool thing to think about. Absolutely. That period of time writing Stay What You Are and then writing In Reverie, that was by far the most fulfilling period of my life as an artist. And I've never been more inspired or felt more free and excited. Like the enthusiasm was high, and it was something that started around the time when I was 17. There's I suddenly woke up and was excited by life, and I think it probably has to do with getting through certain like hormonal changes. Like, we're all like bombarded by these new hormones when we're like little and then go through puberty and become these teenagers that don't understand these new emotions. And they were so intense for me, but somehow by the time I was 17, I'd kind of found my little group of friends and stuff at school, and I was just psyched. And there was like a cool local record store, and I was just finding new music and playing in our band. And around 1997, that's when I was 17, that's when Saves the Day started. So it all started at this very exciting time for me. Also, that was the year when I took, that was the year in school where we could take electives, and I chose a poetry class and a philosophy class. And so those two classes started to really open my mind, and I started to become extremely inspired. So I would say like that lasted from like 17 to like 23. So like that, what is that? However many years. That was a really good window. That was like a really, really good window of time. And I think if I were able to go back, I would appreciate it even more. But that would be incredible because I was having the time of my life.
Yeah, dude, it was like that. I mean, I was a junior when this album came out, and I remember that this was, it was just like peak. It was like peak. It was the album
that's awesome.
It kind of changed everything for me. It like really made me look at the world in a different way. It changed the way that I like, dude. and I say it all the time. And as if it wasn't for, Saves the Day, like who knows if I would even be like where, doing this.
Wow, Morgan,
at all.
That's amazing, dude. Thank you so much, man. That means so much to me. It's so cool that those periods in our lives coincided. The spirit was high.
Spirit was high, dude. But we'll end this interview right now. This one, the public one. But I love you so much, more than I think.
Oh
that
man, I love
anybody
you
will
too.
ever
I love you,
understand.
TJ. You guys are the best.
Thank you so much for being
Dude,
on the
thank
pod,
you guys.
Chris. If you want to hear the rest of our interview, head over to our Patreon. And thank you again, Chris. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to the podcast, another Black Guy Music Podcast. We talk about albums from the past. Most of them are good, but some are really, 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 really bad. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and help us get some motherfucking subs. Sometimes we think albums suck, but then we have to talk to the band. So we try real hard to not be dicks, but sometimes we still are. So welcome to the podcast. We record 2 in a day. So we try real hard to not be dicks, but sometimes we still are. So welcome to the podcast. We record 2 in a day. Fuck you. Fuck you. 2 in a day. Fuck you. Fuck you. CD burners. Fuck you. Fuck you. CD burner.